content I have divided into 10 lectures. In this particular session, that is the lecture 1, I will give the introduction and explain certain basic concepts of thermodynamics. So first of all, what are the objectives of my lecture? Through this lecture, I would like to explain to students what is thermodynamics, thermodynamic system and its various types, to explain the properties of thermodynamics, and to make the students aware of the various thermodynamic processes. After the successful completion of this lecture, the students would definitely get familiar with thermodynamics. They would be able to explain thermodynamic system and its properties. They would be able to identify the various thermodynamic processes, and understanding of all these basic concepts of thermodynamics will definitely help them in their upcoming coursework on this unit.
What is thermodynamics? Thermo means heat, dynamics means motion. So it is a branch of physics that deals with the study of flow of heat energy and the related changes that occurs in the physical properties of the substance due to the flow of heat energy. All the thermodynamic processes, they are based on the fundamental law of principle of conservation of energy. This law states that energy can be transformed from one form to another, but it could neither be created nor it could be destroyed. Now, when we study thermodynamics, what comes in the mind of the students is that why they should study thermodynamics, what is its practical significance. So here is the answer. All sort of heat engines, whether it is petrol engine or diesel engine, they all make use of the properties of thermodynamics to convert heat energy into work. And these heat engines, they are an indispensable part of our life today. So it states the importance of the study of thermodynamics.
Now, when we study thermodynamics, there are three very important terms that we should be aware of. First one is system. It is that quantity of matter or region in space that we choose for our study. Then is the surrounding. The mass or region outside the system is known as surrounding. And it is boundary. Boundary means the real or imaginary surface that separates the system from the surrounding. Here you can see. This is the system that I have chosen for my study. The space around the system is the surrounding, and this is the boundary that separates the system from the surrounding. Now comes the thermodynamic system and its types. So there are three types of thermodynamic systems that we study. First one is open system, a system that can exchange energy as well as matter with its surrounding is known as open system. Then comes the closed system, a system that can exchange only energy but it cannot exchange matter with the surroundings is known as a closed system. And finally, it is the isolated system that can neither exchange energy nor it can exchange matter with the surroundings is known as a isolated system. Here I have tried to explain it by giving certain examples. Here you can see in the first figure, that is for an open system, there is water boiling in a pan without a lid. Both the energy and matter, they are getting exchanged between the system and the surroundings. Now if we close this pan with the lid like here, what happens? Energy is getting transformed but there is no exchange of matter, so it turns to be a closed system. And finally comes the isolated system. This is a thermoflask in which neither matter could be exchanged nor the energy could get exchanged between the system and the surroundings. Now comes the properties of thermodynamic system. Properties of thermodynamic system are divided into two categories. First one is intensive properties. Those properties that are independent of the amount of the mass of the system, they are known as intensive properties like temperature, pressure, and density. Then comes extensive properties. Those properties that varies directly with the mass of the system, they are known as extensive properties like volume, mass, energy, and enthalpy. Let me explain it to you. See, this is a system with certain properties like pressure, temperature, density, mass, and volume. Now, if we divide this system into two parts, here you can see first part and second part. what we see that pressure, temperature and density, they are same for both the part. That means they belong to the category of intensive properties, whereas mass and volume, they also get divided into two equal parts. Therefore, these two properties, they belong to extensive properties category. Next is thermodynamic processes. So what is a thermodynamic process? It is the process in which the system changes from one equilibrium state to another. There are four types of thermodynamic processes that we study: adiabatic process, isothermal process, isochoric process, and isobaric process. Before I further move on with the detailed study of these four processes, I would like to explain you one very important term of thermodynamics that we often come across when we study these processes, and that is an indicator diagram. In this diagram, pressure is plotted along y-axis and volume is plotted along x-axis. That's why this diagram is also known as a PV diagram.
Now, what is adiabatic process? A process in which the system cannot exchange energy with its surrounding is known as a adiabatic process. Here we can see the adiabatic expansion of a gas in an insulated cylinder. Pressure and volume are changing, temperature is falling, but there is no exchange of energy. Then comes the isothermal process. The process in which the temperature of the system remains constant throughout the process is known as a isothermal process. Here you can see the expansion of a gas in which pressure and volume both are changing but the temperature is constant. Therefore, this expansion is isothermal expansion.
Next comes the isochoric process. A process in which the volume of the system remains constant throughout the process is known as a isochoric process. Here you can see the temperature is increasing but the volume is constant. Therefore, it is a isochoric process. Next comes the isobaric process. A process in which the pressure of the system remains constant throughout the process is known as a isobaric process. Here you can see the volume is changing but the pressure is constant, the temperature is also increasing. Therefore, it is a isobaric process. So now I summarize my lecture. Through this lecture, we learned that thermodynamics is a branch of physics that describes the heat transfer and the related energy changes that are based on the law of conservation of energy that are occurring within a physical system undergoing the thermodynamic process. We also learned about the thermodynamic system and its three types: open, closed and isolated system. We also learned about the intensive and extensive properties of the thermodynamic system. Then we learned that there are four types of thermodynamic processes, that are isothermal,